Hey guys, I just watched a video from JC News Now, who's a guy on YouTube, and he's doing one of those First Amendment audits in front of what it looks like a medical facility, but it's a private medical facility, and I think it was like 35 minutes long or something like that. Um, and you can watch it. I kind of skipped through it, low points of the video, but if you get to 22 minutes and 52 seconds, 22:52. Is where the police officer shows up and starts talking to him, and they have a discussion that lasts several minutes, and he ends up getting arrested. And the video is arrested for not giving my social security number. And I said, I got to make a video on this because there's two things I want to point out here, and then I want to see if you have an opinion on that. The first thing, you weren't arrested for not giving your social security number. You were arrested for not identifying because the officer asks for his name, gives his name, asks for his date of birth, gives that. But then the officer says, what's your social? And as he's saying, I'm not going to give you that, he goes, your social security number or driver's license. He says that, but the guy's been going back and forth with him. JC has been going back and forth with him on this. So I think the cops, his patience is exhausted, and he's like, "You're under arrest." But he did say your social or driver's license number. He could have said, "Oh, I'll give you my driver's license, a D544435 or whatever it is." Um, but I'm not giving my social security number either. You want my social security number? I'll give you my driver's license number if I'm under the obligation to do so. But he put that he was arrested for not giving his social security number. But you hear at the end of the video, right as the cops arrest him, just before that, he says your social security number or driver's license. And he's like, I'm not giving you that information. Well, then you're under arrest. So your title is a little misleading. I think you need to go back and retitle it to arrested for not identifying. Now, was he under an obligation to identify at that point in time? I say yes. Because if you watch the interaction with him and the police officer throughout, and if you watch the whole video actually, he maintains that he's on public property. And he can record this business. He does not have to leave. He's on public property. You cannot ask him to leave. And he keeps saying that. He goes, it's publicly accessible. That means I can stand here all day. You can't tell me to leave. Here's the thing. It may be publicly accessible, but as the police officer said, it's private property. So what I want to now, and this is going to just be real short, but I want to now convey to any of you out there who do First Amendment audits or watch First Amendment audits, I want to convey this, that just because a business is publicly accessible does not make it public property. That shopping mall or what have you is owned by a property company or a property owner, some rich guy probably in Gardena, California, or Los Angeles, or Beverly Hills owns that property. Well, he's not in California. He's in another state. But somebody owns that property. Those businesses are leasing that lot, that building, that tenement, that whatever, to run their business out of. So even though it's publicly accessible, let's say it's, Jan's Knits and Yarns. Maybe it's a yarn store or something, some store. And the public can just walk in there and shop and buy stuff and walk out. And you say, well, it's publicly accessible. But that business is leased. They lease it from the property owner to run their business. You ever see, and you go to restaurants, you'll see this where it says, we have the right to refuse service at any time. Why? Because it's a privately owned establishment. And that's what JC News Now found himself in the position of. Yeah, it's publicly accessible. Yeah, but it's a privately leased business or establishment, I guess it was some type of medical facility, it's privately leased or rented, maybe it's rented, not leased, from that property owner. And they have the right to refuse service to anybody. That includes you. So you should have went out to the sidewalk. Now the sidewalk is publicly owned by taxpayers through the city, meaning that they can't tell you to leave the sidewalk because this is America and we have the right to peaceably assemble in public, not publicly accessible private property, public sidewalk, easement on the street, whatever. We in America have the right under the First Amendment to assemble there. Hey, I can stand here all day, dude. I'm on the sidewalk. Just stand here. You can't. I'm not breaking any laws. Once you go on to that leased or rented property of a business, a private business or a private establishment, they have the right to ask you to leave. They can trespass you because that's not city owned. That's not owned by your government, your local, what have you, locality. That's owned by some guy who wrote a check and said, I'm going to rent this or lease this for my private establishment. Does that make sense? Try to make it clear as mud. So JC News, you have a couple of issues with your video. One, you were on a privately owned property by that establishment. And two, you didn't get arrested for not giving your social security number. You got arrested for not identifying because you were being trespassed from privately owned property. Yo.